There's one Walgreens downtown in my city, open 24 hours again. I'm impatient and wanted to pick up what I needed tonight, instead of trekking out during the day. So I go do my shopping and head to the car. I'm sitting in the car, it's running, doors are locked, and I'm trying to get a podcast to where the story is, instead of sitting through the host's BS for 45 minutes. When I first got to the car, my half of the lot was empty. Anyway, get my podcast to the right point, and I hear something pull on my back passenger door. I look up, and there's a young male with a ball cap on, a standard surgical mask, and a backpack, and he's dressed in all black, and all these accessories are black. He was by my back passenger door, and when I looked back, startled to say the very least, he kinda ducked down and peeked into the passenger window, holding his hands up as if to apologize. I put the car in reverse and calmly backed the car up and reverse into another spot. So now I'm facing the rest of the lot, and the spot I was parked in is to my right. Dude standing there making apology hands, then he points to two cars in the lot closer to the building, and jogs over to them slowly, as if to point out, I have a car right here, no need to freak out. There was a man and a woman getting out of one car, paying me and this dude no mind as they walked into the store. On their right, there was another vehicle that I couldn't see, and couldn't see if anyone is in it or near it. I just wanted to get the fuck out at this point. So I did. Here are a few things. First, last month my boyfriend's car was stolen. It was completely my fault. I ran into a gas station for literally a minute, leaving the car running, which I've done countless times in my life and which I will never do again. I recall a big, newer pickup pulling in front while I was paying, and when I left 12 seconds later, both my boyfriend's car and the pickup were gone. So this kid seemingly pointing to the other vehicles as if to say, I have a car, why would I want yours? Isn't comforting. Who knows who was in the other car? It could have been a similar situation, where the thief gets dropped off and steals a car, and his accomplice follows him out. Second thing, the way the car was parked. If this dude came from that direction, he had to have seen me in the driver's seat. I was sitting up, setting my phone up, so he couldn't even use the excuse of I didn't know you were there, or I was just making sure you were okay. You could see what I was doing and very conscious. Also, why go to the back passenger side and try the door handle to see if it would open? I wish I had stuck around. I wish I could have called the cops. I just wasn't sure this dude didn't have a weapon on him, and when I saw him, he just decided to play stupid and walk away instead of actually doing something. I didn't get a good look at him either, especially because he was wearing a hat and a mask, and he was bent over, so no gauge on his height. I did try to call the store. No one was answering, even after I tried skipping all the prompts. Especially after getting my boyfriend's car stolen, I'm extra shaken. What if the door was unlocked for some reason? What if the dude had a weapon and tried to use it? What if there were other people around with him, but I got out of there before seeing him? What if he was hoping I was asleep or whatever and was just going to hide in back like some horrible urban legend come to life? I'm supposed to be in bed snuggled with my boyfriend, but instead I'm freaking the fuck out outside chain smoking. That's another thing. I don't smoke in the new car. What if I'd been outside smoking before heading home? Would he have just pushed past me or pushed me in? I still think about this encounter as an adult. When I was about 10, I was downstairs watching TV late at night with my mom and sisters. Everyone decided to head off to bed, and I was left alone downstairs. I started drifting off, and all of a sudden, someone started banging on our door hard. I'm talking, let me the fuck in hard. I was so scared, I just sat there, frozen, staring at the door like my life depended on it. My dog was laying right next to me, and also just stared. He never barked or moved an inch, which was odd because he always barked at the door. The banging never stopped for what seemed like a solid 5 minutes, but in reality was probably only a minute. I looked at my dog, and I think because I finally moved, my dog snapped out of his trance, looked at me for a split second, and jumped up and ran towards the door. He still didn't bark, but instead started turning his head like he was confused. I finally got the courage to get up and open the blinds to see what was going on, and this young woman, maybe around 20 to 25, was standing there holding her left breast in her hand. It was still attached to her, but she had pretty large breasts, and she was holding it trying to keep them up from sagging, I'm guessing. She had blonde hair, white skin, and was covered in blood. Her shirt was ripped, and her hair was a mess. I remember thinking she may have gotten beat up or was in a car crash. Either way, I immediately went to go open the door. As soon as I went to unlock it, my mom out of nowhere slammed her hand on the door and relocked it. I had no idea she had even come down the stairs, let alone walked up behind me. I was so focused on the door and on this woman that when she slammed her hand, it was almost as if it knocked me back into reality. Reality of not opening the door for strangers in the middle of the night. I looked up at her and I could feel my eyes were wide, and I think I even started crying. She put her hand on my shoulder and moved me away from the door. She yelled, "Who is it?" through the door, and the girl yelled back that her boyfriend had beat her up and they lived in the apartments across the street from us. Mind you, we lived in townhouses in a cul-de-sac. Our unit was all the way in the back, where you would start the turn. We were the first unit in the row, but where she pointed out her and her boyfriend's place was at was quite a ways away from us. You'll see how I know that in a minute. My mom asked her name, and she said something that sounded like something any, maybe Bethany or Stephanie or something like that. I saw my mom hesitate to open the door, but after she yelled, "Please help me," my mom opened the door, stepped out, and pulled it close to shut, but not completely shut. I cracked the door behind her to make sure she was okay and also see what was going on. The woman, we'll call Bethany, kept thanking my mom and asking to come inside because she was scared her boyfriend was going to come after her. My mom refused and explained that she couldn't let her in because of the safety of her 4 kids, but said she would sit out there with her. My mom yelled at me to grab the phone and call the police, so I did. My mom started asking her what happened and what specific unit she lived in. She pointed towards her specific one and told my mom the building number and her unit. The silver SUV pulled up a little later and she ran towards it yelling, "That's my sister," and then just jumped in. The car sped off without another word from her or a single word from the sister. My mom looked back at me confused and came back inside and shut and locked the door. We just stood there and looked at each other. I asked my mom, "What about the police?" and she said she'd wait for them downstairs if I wanted to go to bed. I was too scared to leave her, so I waited with her. Once they arrived, my mom explained what happened, and the officer said she did the right thing not letting her inside. Weird thing is, my dog never barked once until the cops knocked on the door. They also explained that they've been receiving similar calls like that in the area recently. Even worse, the next morning we all packed up to go to the grocery store, and as we passed that building, you could tell the apartment was empty, like no one had been living in it. Maybe they just didn't have any furniture or anything, but it was still weird. He never came after her that night, and we never saw her or the SUV again. Bethany or Stephanie, I hope you're okay if this was real, but also if it's not, don't ever knock on my door again. This all happened this previous summer and put me on high alert ever since. Just the thought of it brings up the fear all over again. Over this previous summer, I was working at a restaurant, bussing tables and ringing people up at the register. It was a summer job, and the only one I could get with the job market being how it is. I was extremely grateful to finally have some income. During the dinner rush, a family came in, extended family with the whole deal. At least 10 people who ended up having a lot of dishes. It was a buffet-style restaurant. While picking up their plates, I tried to make conversation since that was one of the main things management wanted me to do. The middle-aged man in the group kept talking to me. Seemed nice enough and very polite. I kept moving throughout the restaurant, super busy as I was the only one bussing tables when about 20 minutes after talking to this man, he appeared behind me asking what I was doing. He completely surprised me and I told him I was picking up plates from tables. He proceeded to ask me to come hang out with him. I explained I was working and could not. He then started asking me when I got off work, telling me he would wait for me outside. He kept repeating the phrase, "I'll take care of you," and just not leaving me alone. I was 21 at the time, and I'm not the most intimidating, so I was creeped out to say the least. I walked away and looked busy and simply ignored him, but he followed me throughout the restaurant, repeating that same phrase. I was on the verge of tears, trying to get away from him, going up to tables and just asking how their meal was, hoping that if someone saw what he was doing, he would stop, but he wouldn't leave me alone. Finally, after about 5 minutes of this guy following me and harassing me, I made a beeline for the back kitchen, absolutely terrified. I told a coworker what happened after he found me in the dish room trying to keep it together, and he asked me what he looked like, and he was going to see if he was still there. I then proceeded to tell my manager, who was fuming mad, and went to talk to him. I hid in the back for a while per my manager's instructions. After a bit, we went back out to the front, and she had me working the cash register and made sure either her or one of my coworkers was with me until the guy left. As he finally walked out with his whole family, he stopped at the front, looked me in the eyes and told me he'd be waiting for me in the back when I got off work. I was really freaked out for the rest of my shift, just dreading when I would have to leave. I had my manager walk me to my car as I was the closing shift, and luckily he wasn't out there. I had coworkers walk out with me for a few weeks after that, and luckily he never came back, but it scared me enough to get pepper spray. I've already had self-defense classes and felt prepared to defend myself. I've used things that I've learned in real-life situations before, but all confidence went out the window after that. While I never saw this man again in real life, he did find me on Facebook somehow and try to message me and send a friend request. He was promptly blocked and luckily have never had a run-in with him again, but it was enough to make me wary everywhere I go from now on. I want to give the Redditors a big thank you for allowing me to share their stories. Thanks, guys.